Okay. If there's no glitches in the beginning. Okay, we'll see. So part one, if there are really parts to this, I don't know. This is not the exact same video as the one that only 3 of you supposedly watched last week or whatever. But similar, I guess. So I kept putting off doing this one. But I'm also putting off doing another boot talk video since hardly anybody's watched the last couple of those either, and they are long. This shouldn't be too long, even though lately my videos have been running kind of long, and I'm not totally apologizing for that. One second, I move that out of the way. No, not perfect, but a little less distraction. So, a couple little updates first before I get into the meat of the thing. Speaking of boots, because this will not be a boot video, I promise. But I will mostly kind of be going between the thorough goods that I'm finally wearing, that I mostly wore yesterday instead of the JK ones. But then, as promised, I did finally wear these. This is the Thursday President model in the black coffee that I bought true to size a couple years ago. They're a little long in the toe and a little narrow, but not the wrong fit like some of the other boots that I had to size up more. And so, you're not going to see that much wear in a couple hours, and there's a lot of shine from the light and glare. But you can see that I did finally wear them. Now, I did change my socks, and there it went blurry already. I hate when it does that. I did change my socks at one point this morning, and so these other socks started really giving me blisters because they were sliding around more than the thicker socks, but I didn't want to wear thicker socks with these and stretch them out too much, especially at first. And these laces, I'm pretty sure are the ones that came with the boots, but wanted to wriggle loose. And so I had to kind of pull them a little too tight and double knot them. So I don't know. And the foam is squished a little bit in the footbeds now. There one has nails that didn't quite countersink correctly. I took it on the porch. Yeah, you can see that. Wrong side. That one really sticking up almost like all the way out. And this one not terribly in there deep either. I took a nail and tried to hit it with a hammer and push that in, but the nail just kept sliding off of that nail and trying to make the hole wider, so that didn't work. So then I tried it with a Phillips head screwdriver, and I didn't want to break the plastic on the handle part of the screwdriver, though, so I didn't want to hit it as hard as I could hit a nail. So, don't know. Anyway, so these now officially in the rotation for those of you, all 4 of you or whatever, who watched the previous 8 boots in 8 weeks challenge video. Well, it says 16 views, but it might be the same person watching it in little chunks here and there. So I never know how to exactly count that. And that was only a 20-minute video. I didn't go overboard. So I don't know what your excuse was to not watch all the way to the end where I talked about these extensively. So again, I'm not even going to talk about them at all right now. But coming up now in the next couple of weeks, though, I am going to rotate back in the Ariat boots. And I don't remember what these are called because I don't have the box. But in the title card, they are listed. So if you scroll down through the boot videos in the playlist, you find it pretty easily because I got these in July or whatever, so you can find that. And I've barely worn them, and I put in the extra inner sole underneath the insole that came with these to tighten them up a little bit where they were a little extra volume and all that. So I can walk in them normally now. Oh, and speaking of, I threw these on just to save time this evening, and I was debating. They're not completely worn out. The inside is another one where the inside wants to kind of blister a bit because there's a not even footbed going on. And the outsoles aren't completely worn out, but I wasn't sure if I could get new outsoles for these and get them resold and maybe just replace the insole. But the insole's glued in, not necessarily meant to be replaced, kind of meant to be a disposable shoe. But so I was checking that out, and then I was finding out that maybe the insole isn't the only issue. I have had these for a while. I didn't think they were completely worn out. So I don't know if I should see about trying to get these side panels replaced or not, but that is, I don't remember if I showed that on the camera before with this specific pair. I may have. I don't remember. But I haven't worn these in a while. But as I have other more casual, or not more casual, but other shoes that I've been wearing more often when I want casual shoes. So that's mostly it for footwear for now. If anyone has any questions, you can of course leave them in the comments. I'm going to say that at the beginning of the video almost for a change. And as we go into part two. Okay, so for those of you who are new here that don't know the score, I have this kind of quirky system because I have different styles of clothing that mostly seasonal, but some kind of genre, I guess, stuff. And so I've broken it down into, categories mostly based on professions. Even if you don't have this profession, you might still dress in stuff from this profession. Like I always say, military is kind of one of them. And when I say military, I don't necessarily mean army uniforms as much as stuff inspired by an army uniform, like cargo pants, that kind of thing. And I mean, literally, we consider them fashion now, but this is literally an army boot from, in theme anyway, in style. It's an imitation, more or less, of an army boot, right? And then another occupation would be, cowboy, even though most of the guys running around now in cowboy boots, who wear denim jeans and brim hats don't necessarily ride on horses or, work on a ranch or, do anything rodeo, right? And this, of course, is just a work boot. So I'm just using it casually instead of for work, but it's also kind of mountain man looking, kind of lumberjacky looking to anybody who doesn't know what a real logger boot might look like. And I did take my logger boots and put them in the other room, so I don't actually have them now because, of course, I'm going to be wearing those again soon too. But so in terms of that, I, breaking it down, pilot, safari, or adventurer, whatever you want to call it, country gentleman, I have these kind of categories that many of them are kind of vintage inspired also. And like I said in the previous videos, a couple of, Americana being another one. And I'm not going to go too much into detail on that. But so then subcategorized in that, I do by color scheme, again, largely by season. So the season right now is winter. So we're, if you're not sick of this shirt yet, because you're new to the channel, everybody else is sick of this shirt already. This one is brand new out of the bag. I just put it on. It's just a nice, lightweight, inexpensive flannel. And I've worn the brown one on this channel before. This is the gray one that finally is getting used. Just to round out things for laundry day a lot of times. Kind of like, well, I already washed this, And this is an example of the kind of thing that will be decluttered soon. The collar finally went out of this. This is a shirt that's been in my family for many years now, and I don't even know where it came from. One of the relatives left it, and I sort of inherited it 8 years ago, but it's a heavier t-shirt fabric, so I can't wear it much in summer anyway, even if it was a better color, because it's too thick. But it does get a fair amount of wear in the winter, and it looks like this will be its last winter. We'll see. So that will be. And I did lose a pair of underwear recently. For those of you who really, really want to know, I decluttered that. And today, instead of wearing the more traditional Sunday best kind of corduroy pants that I was wearing yesterday, those went in the wash. And I did wear the Blair jeans, which of course are in a head-to-head competition with the Levi's 501 for durability. I've talked about this a lot. But of course, it'll be integrating these a lot more back into, because this month we're shifting from the red to the back to the blue, which of course washes better with gray. So the blue and the gray combinations instead of reds and browns or reds and blacks or whatever. Sticking with the gray for now instead of green. Usually I kind of transition into green early spring, and we still have another whole month before that typically could happen, but I might still wear some green stuff. But another shirt that will probably not survive because the collar's been out of it for a while, but I've still been wearing it through most of the autumn. But it's, again, blue. So the blue and that. So the three categories that got the nod this time is sticking with the mountain man theme or the logger theme or the North Woods theme or whatever you want to call it, but less with the buffalo checks, maybe with getting some of those other plaids out of the way. Still, again, the gray stuff. But then also bringing back in the true Western wear, which I have a whole stack here to show, even though I've shown most of them before, because why not? If you're new to the channel, you haven't seen them, so here you go. And if you have seen them before, then you probably stopped watching anyway already. But in the meantime, I did wear the Carhartt shirt finally a couple times, and I did launder it again. I did also go ahead and remove the tag from the pocket, which was here about somewhere. And I was a little worried about ripping the... I'd started with a razor blade, and that wasn't working as well as I thought it would, so I switched to a true stitch picker cutter thing that a tailor would have, and that was a little tricky in some spots, but it went really fast once I did that, because once the one thread was cut, then half of it wanted to just peel off, and I didn't end up. But I did kind of turn the pocket inside out at one point and get the extra stitches that are, well, they're no longer attached. I threw them in the trash, but. So yeah, I did remove that. I did find that the thicker fabric was nice on cold mornings to wear where I didn't feel like I needed a jacket. But then when I was home, like in the evening watching TV, I found that the fabric itself was kind of stiff and not very like cozy and comfy as much as I wanted. And like lying down in it to kind of nap, it was like, nah, I don't want to nap in this. I want to change my shirt. I think that will maybe ease up and give when it's been washed a bit more. I think that's a temporary issue, but we don't know, because I won't be wearing it that much more unless, you know, I mean, I have other stuff that's similar, that's more in the color scheme, that's less autumny and more wintry and coming spring-y. And then, of course, I won't be wearing these until, I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever, because I'll probably wear these again tomorrow. I did them 3 days in a row, the 1 week, but it kind of depends on what I'm doing. Like sometimes wearing a pair of jeans the second day, it's kind of like, I don't know, after yesterday it might need to be washed already, but most of the time jeans I think can go 2 days in a row-ish, if, you know, depending on what you're doing. If it's casual wear, 3 is still kind of pushing it, but I wasn't doing anything super active at the time. So the first week, like I said, I was able to milk 3 days, I think, out of each of them. But then this one, the second week, I had to wash them early, like I said, because I got food on it or something. So anyway, so going along with that, we have, is this part 3? Well, not yet. Almost part 3, I guess. Well, the other assortment here is the old standbys, the hockey stuff. So I guess we'll do the hockey stuff last. And so this again could be kind of Western, but also kind of mountain man-y. This kind of a general purpose, although I tend to use the Henley stuff more during the nautical months. That's one of the other categories, of course. And so adhering to a kind of strict thing, I've brought in only so far the gray stuff and the blue stuff. Oh, and one black one that I showed. So like I said, it's hockey stuff, but it's keeping in theme. So I got a hat that matches this one shirt. I've showed these before in the video from last summer, last winter, whenever it was. If you go into the cost per wear playlist or something, that should be. Anyway, you know, how to dress kind of vintage in sportswear. I did football, even though I'm not really a football guy, and I did baseball and I did hockey. And so you can find that video in the thing somewhere. So going down the line, as I've showed before, pretty big stack, mostly blue stuff that I just brought in for the video. I have more gray stuff still in the other room. So I have a gray one of this also from Duluth. Again, this, now see, some people might think this I would consider nautical, but I actually got this more for wearing with kilts, not really for wearing with jeans or napping in like some of the other, because it has these big bold pockets and such. So I may not wear this or the gray one very often, but I'll show them anyway, just because they're interesting. Heavy duty Henley instead of some of the others. And then, like I said, similar to the Carhartt, I already have the LL Bean chamois shirts. It's not the exact same fabric. This is a lot more cozy. And then I have other ones that are less cozy, Sportsman's Guide and why am I thinking? Duluth. I have one from Duluth that's not cozy at all, but it's pretty durable. Then, of course, I have the old standby. I showed the red one of this in the previous one of the previous videos. Woolrich. This was the Trout run, I think. These are very cozy, but they're not as heavy duty. They're lighter, but you can see again, kind of that theme. And then this one, like I said, I've shown this one and the next one both before. Can be nautical, but also can be mountain. Kind of a nice gray area. And this one's a little bit big on me, so good for layering. So if I had to wear it over that pocket Henley, I could. That type of thing. And then this one's a newer one that I got from this brand that I haven't really tried out much. I wore it a little bit this autumn. I showed it in photos and things. The sleeves are a little long, but it was only 17 bucks. So it'll do. So, you know, I have quite a few flannel things that I can use casually that are heavier than this. Again, so when the weather cools down again next week, I'll be throwing on those instead of this. Maybe, depending on what I'm wearing over this. But then the new acquisitions, these being the red cap and the key apparel. So I had gotten the key at the same time as I had gotten the Carhartt, and I had tried to really shrink both of them a bit in the wash. This one ran still a little bit big, although not terribly, but did not shrink at all. Like I said, and maybe it'll soften up with washing, but did not shrink in the dryer or not. Whereas this red cap one shrank quite a bit, actually. Shrank more than I expected. So I have the other color in the green that I'm going to baby more. But this should be a nice, cozy, pretty heavy, durable option. And snaps and all that. And I was worried I wouldn't be able to tuck it in, that it was going to be too long, and this and that. And it, like I said, it shrank all up. I already talked about that in another video. Whereas this was the twill shirt that I was wearing pretty often. It's like a uniform shirt. Essential Craftsman had recommended these as his go-tos, whereas the other two were from the Murawski video right before, I don't know, Thanksgiving or whatever. And so this was, I had gotten 3 colors for $100 or $80 or whatever the deal was to get the free shipping. So I bought an extra shirt, and that was this, because this was not the color that I was terribly worried about getting. I just got it instead of getting a navy one or whatever the other color blue. I think there's like a sky blue. So I did wear this a little bit. It looks like a navy shirt. Some of the sailor ones that I got from the surplus store a long time ago, the color matches. They called this postman, but to me it looked like midshipman or whatever that other shirt is. But he was saying the collars on these are durable and last a long time, and I was saying I didn't really like the feel of the collar all that much, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll throw this back into the rotation, weather permitting again, if it's not too cold, where I want a heavier thing, etc., etc. And I still have those 3 or 4 pairs of overalls that I can wear with something like that. Hold on a second. So that is the mountain man portion of the of the episode, which I guess brings us to the cowboy portion of the episode. Yeah, the Western wear stuff. Even though technically part 1 and part 2 were, I don't know, same thing. So again, a bunch of these you've seen, but here I've got more casual and trying to wear all of this stuff. Again, some of it will end up getting skipped and put aside for next year, but this one's got a lot of use. Don't know if this will end up getting decluttered yet, although it's getting there. It's a bit beat, but it's not really a dress shirt. It is a casual shirt. It is a slightly different twill shirt than this shirt, even though they're kind of similar. This one's a little bit lighter weight, maybe. The collar's got structure in it. It has collar stays. You can see there's wear in the collar, but it's not worn out yet. It does have the snaps instead of the buttons. So it is a true Western wear shirt, even though it doesn't have all the yokes and fancy details and things that we think of as Western shirts as opposed to work shirts. So again, I've shown it before a lot of times, and it's kind of that color blue that looks better when it's new, but it's faded in vintagey, right? I guess. Then of course I have some more casual shirts. Okay, 1 second. They're hiding under there. Okay. I have t-shirts, but I'll show those in a minute. Let me do the t-shirts. Okay. Second, then I have this one that is should have been in the previous category. This is one of those mountain shirts that's kind of one of the stripes. It's not the exact same thing as the railroad stripes. The hickory, slightly different. So this one's another one that I consider nautical when I feel like it, and I consider mountain when I feel like it. But I don't necessarily consider it Western, but it does have a button-down collar instead of a like really structured collar, and it does have a single patch pocket instead of, you know, double chest pockets and all that kind of thing. So it is a little more refined than a total work shirt, even though it's almost a denim. It's kind of a chambray that wants to be a denim or something. I don't know. It's a little bit hybrid-y. It's not super heavy weight though. So again, if it gets cooler weather, on the back burner. And then of course I have this one belongs in the hockey zone, but it's also a mountain shirt, but it's, you know, it's got the logo and it's got the button collar and it's got 1 pocket. And it's a very lightweight denim. I have heavier weight denim shirts than this elsewhere. That I did not bring in, even though they are Western wear, but some of them aren't really Western wear as much as they're mountain wear, because again, they don't have the pockets and the yokes and the all that fancy stitching. So similarly, I've shown this one before as well. I can throw this casually. It's just a shirt that doesn't require a tie, although you could wear it with a string tie. And it does have the yokes, the detail, although it's not as noticeable as contrasting plaids and all that kind of thing. And it's held up. It's a trooper. It's in a little bit better condition than that other blue shirt, even though I got them around the same time. But I haven't worn this one as much. So it's made it through the years longer. Whereas this is the new one that I just got from Boot Barn last month or whatever it was. No, this was the one I got in the summer, I think. The other one is out in the other room because I need to get the cuffs tailored. So I have those other two in the other room. The floral one, I showed all these in the Western shirts video. I did 2 Western shirts videos or 3 already. I forget. But something like that, again, if the weather kind of warms up. And then I have this older one I didn't bring in all the, in the 3rd Western video, I did all the real heritage looking singing cowboy kind of stuff. Most of the ones you get now are more of like a poly blend or some kind of thing. It's not true old heavy duty fabric, but they look, TV ready or whatever. This one was kind of like that when I first got it, but it's a little bit faded now. I've worn it pretty often, but this one is the Fender guitar deal. And and it's got the snaps again. This one has actual real pockets, not fake pockets like some of them. Has piping, but the yokes are not exactly the same as that other yoke as you saw. And it has the flamboyant sleeve cuffs and all that. And this one, I talked about it at length in the other video about how I had to get this tailored and the guy didn't do it the way I wanted to do it. And I was all mad because it cost me $70. But after all that, it still fits. So I can wear that a bit and feel yeehaw. Okay. And then, of course, I got one new t-shirt in Arizona that I showed in the road trip videos. And so I got the Willie Nelson one for like $20, which was not terrible. And then I got this one just because I was in New Mexico, and so I needed a souvenir. So that was my Arizona souvenir and my New Mexico souvenir. So $40 spent on t-shirts, which is not terrible. Well, the New Mexico one I think actually cost more than the other one. $21 plus $1 or something for tax. And the Willie Nelson one was less. It was like, on sale. They were clearing out of them. So the Willie Nelson one actually cost less. So that was cool. Even though I have 800 billion t-shirts. I don't wear as often as other shirts. And then I already had this other Willie Nelson shirt that I got years ago that I have not worn out yet. Oops. Why is everything backwards? I don't know. But this one's more of like a souvenir. I don't know if I'm going to ever wear this one that much. And I think it's a size too small, but it might still fit. If I don't want to look, too much like the Michelin tire guy. Probably wear that blue one instead more often. And then I have Texas. I've shown these before, but who cares? We're doing Western time. So I got this Texas one, and it's got a little design on the front. And this one has long sleeves. So I often have used this as nighty night time instead of jammies. It happens. And I got this one also too as well from the place where the Mr. George Strait got his big start. And so I had this one that I've worn a bit. And so I like this one. I should have got this one in a couple different colors probably. If I make it back there sometime, maybe get another one. But since I was already buying that other shirt, it was like, oh, I don't want to spend that much money because that time I wasn't really souvenir hunting, but I felt like I kind of should get something. And I ended up getting 2 shirts instead of only one. So it was like, $60 or whatever, or more with tax. I don't remember. It was not the end of the world, but like, you know, when you're not planning on buying anything and then all of a sudden you're buying two, you know. But I like them, so here they are. And then of course I got this. This one cost even more. I haven't worn it yet. Another one that almost looks like jammies though, but it is a long sleeve Henley. So that'll come in handy when the weather warms up a little bit more. Maybe. So that's a very small sampling of my Western wear for the next few weeks until we see what the dice of fate have in store for us again in the late winter reset. If there's a reset, some months, like I said, I end up wearing a lot of the same stuff 2 months in a row, and that's kind of nice because then it makes it a lot quicker and easier to figure out, you know, what to declutter. Because again, like that gray shirt and that blue shirt, I can throw those into the rotation right away, and maybe they'll both be gone by, well, not probably February, but mid-February or March, they might both be decluttered out of here and ready for more, you know, springtime stuff. So part four-ish. I can't get this thing to ever close. I don't understand my own camera. 4. So hockey all the time. Again, a very small sampling. Well, obviously I spoke of this already as, you know, another one of those kind of moody crossover pieces that wants to fit in multiple categories. And I really don't wear denim shirts very often in the spring and the fall as much as I probably could or should. But I do have a bunch of chambray ones, and I wear those a little bit more often, and they're a little bit lighter weight, so it works a little better. So yeah, I have my Go Kings Go, and I didn't bring in the hats. I have a hat that kind of matches this. So if I'm feeling very root for the home team, I can do that. And then I have this nice sweater that I do wear more often than you'd think. It's not hardly worn out at all for how many years I've had it. It does pretty well for lounge wear, kind of casual. It doesn't have a real dedicated sleeve cuff kind of thing, so you can nap in this pretty well, but it does not have any kind of thick fleece interior. It kind of looked like it did at one point, but not that much. And not quite a waffle. Well, I mean, I guess you'd call it a waffle or a thermal texture, but not a thermal that I wear under other stuff. I kind of wear this over a t-shirt, and that's does well like for that. And then this, on the other hand, is like a jersey, but it's like a cotton jersey, so it's kind of a vintagey idea, I guess, even though the original jerseys were wool. But then in the 60s, they did start doing cotton jerseys, but they're not exactly this kind of style and pattern and whatnot. But it does have some piping. It does have some kind of, so it's the kind of thing I would order, you know, ordinarily argue is borderline kind of immature, you know, not necessarily something I wear out in public as much as something you might wear for game day or whatever. It's just an option. I've had it for a long time just because I liked the design and the subdued, you know, kind of aspect to it. It wasn't super flashy like a modern jersey, especially a polyester bright, you know, colored kind of thing. And they had limited team runs, so it was kind of like, well, you can't necessarily get the teams that you exactly want, but if you just want to collect them, you know, they had the Red Wings and they had the Rangers or whatever. So, you know, and I'm not opposed to having other Sharks apparel. I have plenty. So I know if you're a Kings fan or you're a Sharks fan, how can you have both? Well, I do. Suck it up. And then of course this one that's really getting on its last legs. This one has been worn. Another one that's the collar's going out of it already. I have a matching hat that's kind of on its last legs too, so I got a feeling this one might get retired this season finally, even though I like it. And it's the, you know, that Statue of Liberty logo instead of the classic Rangers when they, you know, made it dark blue, but so it's not, you know, the proper Rangers blue and all that, but what are you going to do? It's lasted this many years, so I'll cut out the printed design part and save that for posterity probably, and use the rest as rags, you know, because it's just about run its course. It is long sleeve, so again, it's another shirt that's been worn as pajamas. And then I have this one that's kind of an odd color, but it's also blue, and I have other ones that are other colors, and some slightly more vintage styles and whatnot, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I didn't bring in every last single one. I just brought in a small sampling to give an idea, because this video is already 10 minutes longer than I thought I was going to babble. So yeah, that's kind of about it. That's my reset video. Like I said, I didn't really go into true, like the thumbnail might imply, true vintage. I'm going to do a video more on that soon, a little bit, a little more centered on, you know, classic menswear and classic other, and then I have another video that I want to do that's a little bit more on historical, I guess, you know, if you want to subcategorize that, but fantasy whimsy mixed in, blah blah blah. So, and I've already talked about tweed and that kind of thing before anyway, so it might get a little redundant in some spots. I don't know how to fix that, you know, just from month to month, but I do like making these kind of videos a little bit more than some of the kind of way the women's channels approach these things in their hunt and searches and their thrift stores, and trying to fill their wardrobe gaps and all that. I don't always view it as much scientifically or neo-scientifically as that. Kind of, I don't know. If I see it and I like it, I still, I don't always impulse buy it, but it's like that, then it does fill a gap, kind of, because it's the gap of the thing that I kind of want for a, you know, specific look or whatever. And like I said, I might be narrowing down, especially gray. I don't wear gray a lot. This year was kind of forcing myself to do it. So using it up, getting it out. I'd rather wear blue or green most of the time than something this non-committal, but it doesn't look bad on its own or with, you know, the right outfits and things. Like the color gray itself is, you know, grounding or whatever. So, you know, is used for that specific purpose. So I won't never, you know, eliminate every last gray thing I ever own. But like I always say, charcoal looks a lot classier, more dignified, works better than a lot of mid grays and lighter grays overall. So these lighter gray things, I just showed what the Texas shirt, I won't wear the Sharks jersey. It'll just sit here and look pretty, but the Kings one I will wear. You know, that kind of thing. So if, you know, I ever had to declutter, you know, I guess I could try and sell the Sharks one if I, you know, needed that $30 or whatever I might get for it. But in the meantime, like I said, not doing a lot of green yet, not doing holiday reds and greens at all anymore. Like I said, this was kind of the last bastion of the burgundy. I did wear a bit of the burgundy, but like I said, I kind of shuffled it away quickly to try and get more of the gray stuff, to get it worn, use it up, move it out. All right, so that was another extra 10 minutes on top of the other 10 minutes. So whatever. Like I said earlier, if you had any questions, put them in the comments. I don't know if there's anything I forgot to talk about, but I feel like I've been talking for a while and I wasn't even going to make a video tonight, but here we are getting this one out of the way, and I'll be doing a boot talk, like I said, in the next couple days sometime. Hopefully people will go back and watch that 8 boots video first, even though they're not directly related. But I thought that was a series that people would really be interested in, and maybe not. I don't know. Okay, whatever. But I'm concentrating more on, again, yeah, true work boot styles more than fashiony boot styles. But the same thing's going to happen with both style of boots. They're not going to show that much wear in a week or two. So there's that.